Hello, and thanks for buying the Human Shader pack. Now, in this pack you will see 3 heads initially with 3 different skins, 3 eyes, and 3 hair shaders applied. Now, if I just minimize this, you'll see that each of these skins has their own setup here, so you can change the amount of scatter and alert between the SSS and the base color. You can change certain effects here, like you can change the skin tone to be something darker. You can reduce the light scatter and any scaling of the light. You can increase the amount of scatter on the front when the light's hitting it directly, or on the back when the light is behind it. There's a little shininess control here, but there's also glossiness here for having a more kind of oily shiny look. You've got a curvature map here to help drive some of the details, and a normal map also, and this can be boosted above 1. It just slides from 2 to 0, so 1 would be your normal map default. So changing these sliders, you can get mostly what you want. There's also an albedo texture and an SSS texture here, so I think I've got these mixed up. Let me just choose that one there, and this would be like SSS. There we go. Okay, so you can choose the skin tone with this one, get a nice pale skin, and your SSS here. Now when the light is directly behind the characters, you'll see in the air here you can control the subsurface scatter, so that would be the back scatter. So if I increase that and increase some of these other settings, you can see it start to come through. You can change the scale of it, and also the slider here also affects it. Now there's a fuzz control for the edges, just some rim lighting, and you've got some scatter add here. Change the scale of the light in case it's too wide, and you've got a base glow as well. Now I'm constantly fixing the shaders up. Each time I see any problems, I'll fix and make a new version. In case you've locked yourself into one version you don't want to update, I'll make a new shader version and date it just in case. So each of these skins has got their own eyes and hair as well, so I'm just going to look at those. Let me just bring the light back round. Let's reduce that shine a little bit and increase the colour. So I've made this temporary wig up. I'm not too great at making hairs, so I'm going to be working on how to make some more of these. And you see there's some issues like the hairs are cutting through each other. That's just because I'm not an expert at doing hair. Also the hair strands themselves seem quite thick and wiry, so these are a couple of things that I'm going to be working on. Now with the hair you get, so there's a few different ones set up. There's also a whole bunch of different hair shaders that help for different things, but this one, the VRTC one, is the new one, which is driven through this texture, and it's basically RGB, and also the alpha for the alpha cutout. So green, red and blue is your root, red is your variation, and blue is your tip. So it goes from root, variation to tip, and there's variation all through it, so the red is actually used in the whole thing. When you choose the material, just choose a material here. We've got this dark one. You can drive the 2 variation colors here. So variant color 1 in gloss, you can change that to maybe like red, so you can see it's changed one tone here, and then this one you could make like orange. This is the gloss value of each. And then your root could be like blue. So that's your tip. Your tip could be blue here, and the amount, just control through the slider, and the root here as well. So the root is kind of this area. Let me just turn these glosses down because they look a bit abstract. So change the root color to something different. Okay, it's not very pretty here, it almost looks like wool, but you get the idea that you can customize this however you like to get your own hairstyle. And then you can change things like the highlight position and strength, the color. The exponent is the spread. There's also this alpha value that you can use to just tweak the cutout level, and that might give you some finer hairs. Secondary highlight position and color as well. So you can have the two tints. And there's also this extra thing I've added called spread, just to get a little bit of sheen, and there's also noise, which adds a little bit extra detailing as well. You can change the positions of these like an anisotropic effect. So there you have some bluish hair. You've got gloss control here, as well as this fake highlight effect, and the noise and the spread and things. So it's pretty nice. It works well enough as hair, and it solves all the transparency issues. You might see through the head a little bit, so you'll have to paint your head a little bit darker underneath. Now I've tried to do this, but when I've changed the hair color to something, you know, lighter, it's harder to see that I've made that darker. I could always make it even darker. So that's how that works. The eyes, the eyes here are two LODs. So when you move to a certain distance, it will use the smaller LOD, and then as you get closer, it will change to a different one. And you can see for the eyes, you've got things to control like front glow. When the light's directly on the eyes, do they glow a little bit? When the light's behind, you don't want them to be completely black, so it's good to be just give it a little bit of back glow when the light's behind it, like this. Then you see that the eyes get quite dark, so if you give it a little bit of back glow, you can see you can control a little bit more there for a little bit of realism. There's also subsurface scattering and some extra scatter details, but you can see it makes a little bit of a weird effect if you put that too high. There's also metalness to bring out the colour a bit more, and a minimum glow so that it will always be a set amount. And there's some eye shading here, which just adds a little dark area around it. Hard to see here, but yep. Let's go back to that here and just fix that alpha a little bit. It does need a few more. You can see through it, so it does need a few more layers here. That's the way I've done it. If you're worried about showing up wrong, you can change these values to get different results. You can change this to something higher. Oops. If it's causing any effects, but from shader it seems to be pretty standard. Now I'm using some post-process effects in this scene. I'm just going to undo everything I've done here. I'm using some post-process to help alleviate some of the noise and things like that. So I'm using the Madgo AA. I'm also using the post-process stack to get some extra details. See if I can just get back to a point where, okay, that looks right. So I'll just rotate this light back round. Okay, so I'm using the post-process stack, which is free, and on that I've got anti-aliasing fast approximate set, and I've also got a little bit of ambient occlusion. You can see if I set it too high, it's a bit too much. So I've just set it to 0.31, 0.1 and sample count high, and it's not really needed, it just helps a little bit. The anti-aliasing also helps just a little bit, but my main thing is the Madgo, which I think costs on the Unity Asset Store. Don't quote me on how much it is because that price might change, but if I play this, you will see, or you might not see, but there's a lot of noise reduction. So if I click that there, you can see it kind of reduces some of this noise. So if I play it without, I mean, it's still quite nice without it, but switching it on just takes away some noise and just gets rid of some of the graininess at the end of these alphabets. Here you can see the subsurface scattering working. So when the light's round the side or behind it, it starts to hit these areas based on the weight map. You can also see it scatter a little bit red in the faces here, and you've got total control over that as I showed you before. So if I choose like this head, material light skin, you can change the amount of subsurface that gets through. See, you can just see that. I do need to fix some of the shader settings because it seems a little bit broken, but otherwise it seems to be functioning well enough to use. You've got this light scatter amount, which the light will push right round through the head, so you have to be careful with that. Don't set it too high. And some scatterad as well. Like some of these things are a little bit obsolete and a work in progress, so you might lose them. And the fuzz is just some edge. You can change the fuzz color if you want something dark. You can get a nice dark edge. Just bring that back to the front. So there you see the fuzz color changing as I slide this left to right. And it's good for simulating a little bit of soft hairs. Sometimes you get the micro hairs in the face which just pick up a little bit extra light in a kind of Fresnel type way. So yeah, it's just a case of playing with these settings until you get an overall balanced look. So like this head, for example, I feel that the scattering's too high, so you can change some of these to see. The best thing to do is just swipe it left and right until you get something that you like. When the light's behind it, you can see what effect it has. So direct scatters when the light's in front, and back scatters when the light's behind. So you can see how I can switch that on and off by sliding that up and down. So you might want that just a little bit. So that's basically it. So you've got access to the eyeball shaders, which I've done an extensive update to. There's a lot of shaders. There's the old initial ones I created, and they kind of worked for a while, but they look too toyish and cartoony, but they're good for like robot eyes and things like that. Then I did the eye shader 2, which it drives things with animation, so you can sort of spin things with some of these settings. There's like rotation and things like that. Then the eye shader 3 is the more up-to-date one, which is a bit more realistic looking. You know, it does all your parallax, and you can see the way that looks. There's a few demo ones created for you, the green, the brown and the blue, and there's also this really kind of eye of yeah, what's it called? Anyway, and there's like fire eyes and things like for dragons, green eye, and there's a zombie eye as well. So these are all great to sort of muck about. You can change all these settings and see what you can get. You can load in your own textures, and it can be anything really. So you can load in like stuff like this and just patterns and logos and whatever you want, and it's pretty cool. You've got your subsurface scattering here, your micro scatter, just to sort of scatter it about. It's good to sort of play with each of these to get an overall look that you like. You got your glossiness as well in the eyeball. There's also the sclera bump scale, so these little veins will stick out. I did an update to this, the masking texture. So green is your sclera, the red bit is the ring around the eye there, I forget the name of it, and the blue bit is the kind of iris area. And you've got full control of all that. So I hope you enjoy this pack. Any questions, feel free to comment below in the YouTube video or get in touch by email. My email is me@robertramsey.co.uk, and I'm more than happy to help. I'll be working on some extra wigs over time, and I'll include that into the Hair Shader 2 pack. Also, I'll probably develop most of it in the Human Shader pack, but I'll include a few in the Human Shader pack as some kind of resource, because this pack's getting quite busy now with different things. So there's a little R&D section here if you want to check it out. I've got some new shaders I'm working on, and it's basically what this one's the February 19 one. Some extra textures, like a base texture there, some various little prefabs, but you don't have to worry about that R&D or the miscellaneous folders. They're just kind of temporary things. So your main ones is your eye shader, Hair Shader 2, Hair Shader Simple, which is the first hair shader I created, Simple Skin Shader as well, as that got all your fancy candle waxy sort of looking things. So there we go, just look at that. You see it's just a basic setup. Get a little light source here, sorry, your candles, and there's a video dedicated to this under the Skin Shader pack. So for each of these sub packs, like the eye shader, that's its own Unity asset store thing, so is the Hair Shader packs, and the Skin Shader, they're all their own sort of packs, so you'll see plenty more videos on those. Okay, thanks for watching, bye.